Right, I've had a nightmare putting this video together, but I'm here on YouTube to make a video about YouTube, but specifically for handmade business owners and Etsy shop owners, because I am a little bit biased, but I'm convinced that if you have a handmade business, then you should have a YouTube channel. And if you watch this video, then fingers crossed I'll be able to show you why. Right, yeah, in case anybody was wondering, I'm in my bedroom because life has completely gotten in the way the last couple of days, and the dog and family and just time and stuff. And I've just had an opportunity of, I'm guessing I've got about 10 minutes, so let's see if I can rattle through this really quickly. So over the weekend, I put a question out on my community tab to ask if there was anything that anybody would like to know, and you got back to me. So I will just go through and I will answer your questions. That's probably the best way to do it. So I thought I'd start with a very brief history. I started my YouTube channel 3 years ago. It was just a hobby and I put up videos whenever I fancied, really. And then I neglected it for a year and then I came back, but again, it was all very random. And then at the start of this year, I decided that I was going to do YouTube properly. So I went all in, and that's where we are now. We're at the end of August, so that was 8 months ago. I'm still very much a baby YouTuber in my head. And I have very recently had to delete a bunch of videos from my channel that had nothing to do with the niche that I want to move into. I'll circle back to that later on in the video because that's relevant to a question I got asked. But my channel, as you see it now, is the direction I want to go. And that is, in a nutshell, my little YouTube story, in case you were wondering. Okay, so the first question I was asked was, what if you are camera shy? Would sharing videos about your work without sharing your face be appealing enough? And the short answer to that is yes. So you could do demonstration videos or tutorials or work with me style videos where you can look down onto a desk perhaps and just have your hands in the shot but you're not in it. Or you could have B-roll, which is, you can get like stock footage, you can buy it from other websites and you can fit it together and then put music or your own voiceover over it. Screen sharing, that sort of thing. I mean, you're literally only limited by your imagination, but if you're thinking that you need to do talking head videos like I'm doing now, you really don't. Okay, and a lot of you wanted to know about the minimum audio and visual equipment that you needed to get started. I'm probably the worst person to answer this question because I bootstrap it. I film on my phone. It's a Samsung 10, and most phones these days will have a camera that's perfectly fine. Especially getting started, you can always level up when you feel more comfortable, but you don't have to get off the starting block with a fancy camera or anything like that. Trust me, I haven't. And I don't even use the rear camera either, which is higher quality. I'm using the front-facing camera, which is poorer quality. And quite frankly, sometimes with these wrinkles, I think that's probably a good thing. The thing that you will need is a microphone, and I just use a bog standard lav mic. I got this one pretty cheap off of Amazon, which I know is bad, but you know what? Sometimes needs must. I couldn't even tell you what make that was because it's one of those generic things. If I spend any money going forward, it will probably be on a better mic and lighting, which next, lighting. Okay, well right now, if I spin you around, you're going to also see my wardrobe. And there we go. I am literally next to a window. And that is my lighting. Even downstairs when I'm in the office, I've got a window right in front of me. This one is south facing, but it's a bit of an overcast day. So the lighting right now is fairly muted. I wouldn't usually film here because there's also a tree right outside the window, and usually with the sunlight and the tree, it creates shadows that keeps moving, which can be a nightmare when you're filming. In my office, because it's north facing, the light that comes in is a bit more consistent. However, as I experienced a couple of videos back when it was a really, really dark and rainy day, the lighting in my office went terrible. And I don't want to use artificial lights, so I am going to at some point have to invest in a proper light. I have a ring light. I personally don't like them. I don't like the little ring it makes in your eyeballs. And it felt like talking into a torch, which was really distracting. It did the job, to be fair, it did the job, but I found it really distracting. So I think, yeah, mic and just a cheapo lighting setup, I think I might put some money into. But as far as starting out completely goes, I'd say get a phone, get a cheap lapel mic and a window, and just start there, because you might start making YouTube videos and then decide you don't even like it. So you don't want to sink a lot of money into it from the get-go. Get yourself comfortable, and remember, in the early days, people expect you to be gritty and bootstrappy and all of the rest of it, so you've got the perfect excuse. Don't let it put you off. Do you have any tips on editing and lighting? Well, we've sort of covered the lighting. Editing, I don't really feel that I can offer tips, seeing as I am still learning myself. I use Wondershare. See, I can't even help you with the actual editing software. Wondershare Filmora is what I use, and I had no idea how to use it when I got it. I did a bit of a Google search and I had a look and did some research, and that one came up. I kind of like the look of it, so I just jumped in, bought the subscription and started teaching myself how to use it, and it was clunky as heck. But that's the best way to learn, is just to get in there and start learning. YouTube is brilliant because there are so many videos out there to tell you how to do things. So my advice would be to find one, buy one, start watching YouTube videos. I think if you can accept the fact that you're going to suck for a while and be okay with that, that's quite freeing. Done is better than perfect. And when I got started with this properly, I did find myself a few times falling foul of self-doubt and having what I could see in my head not being matched by my skill set and what I was putting out there, and it was so frustrating. But I just kept telling myself, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Because if I waited for perfection, which frankly doesn't exist, then I'd never get anywhere. I'd never put anything out, I'd never get better. I wouldn't be even here talking to you now. So the only way to start is to start. Okay, this is the big one. Any tips on getting monetized? And some of you mentioned specific things. So I've got affiliate links, ads, sponsorship deals, my days. Super thanks, super chats, and live streaming. So strap yourselves in. If you can hear the dog downstairs, I'm going to work through it. So let's just ignore him. There are people down there with him. He's not on his own. He's just being a butthead. Okay, you probably already know, but just in case you don't, in order to get monetized on YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time within the last 365 days. And the reason why people want to hit those two targets is because then you can run ads on your videos and you can start making money from your work. And when you get monetized, all of a sudden, YouTube will give you tools that you can use to make some money from your channel. The obvious one that everybody seems to know about are adverts. And that in itself is a learning curve, trying to figure out what adverts to place on your videos and how many of them. Once you can do that, that's the main one that people think of, but there are others. I wrote all of this down so I knew I wouldn't be able to remember it. Ooh, super thanks. That's a recent one they've added, I think. If you look at the bottom of this video, you'll see a little heart symbol with a $sign in it. And that is super thanks. It's essentially like a digital tip jar. And then, I am literally balancing at the end of the bed and that was nearly me off the edge of it. What was I saying? The other super chats, which is linked, I believe, to live streams. Now, this is where I did try to do my research before this, so I'm going to keep it quite vague. I haven't ventured into the area of live streaming yet, so my knowledge is limited. What I would suggest is that if you want to know more about live streaming, have a little look for some live streaming videos on YouTube. There's lots of them and I've found some pretty good ones. Maybe I should make a playlist. Maybe I should concentrate. Live streaming. You can activate super chat so that people who are talking in your live stream can, again, it's a bit like a tip jar, donate some money to you, and what it does is it kind of highlights their comment so that it sticks out and goes pow. Then there's memberships, which if you're familiar with Patreon, it's YouTube's version of that. And I'm really excited about this because until fairly recently, I had a Patreon account and I really, really loved it. The atmosphere and the little community we had there, and I miss it. And then when I found out about the memberships here on YouTube, I was like, oh, Memberships will probably be happening here at some point. Keep your eyes peeled for that, but not yet. That is simply a way that you can bear in mind. And again, that's unfortunately with the 1,000 subscribers, etc. However, there are ways that you can make money from your YouTube channel before you are monetized. You can do sponsored deals, and then the other one is affiliate links. And it can be a good way to earn some income from your channel before you're monetized. So if that's intriguing to you, then definitely look into it. Okay, so those are the different ways that you can make money from your channel before and after being monetized. Tips on how to get monetized. And what I would suggest is finding a niche that works for you and just going all in on that. And that's the trouble. You do have to go all in, even though you're not getting paid for it initially. It's like an internship. You're taking it seriously as if it is a job all of its own, and you're not getting paid for it at the beginning. That being said, we're talking about the monetary rewards right now. I want to tell you very, very quickly about the other things that you can gain from it. A community. I never saw that coming. I'm going to be honest. I saw YouTube as a bit of a passive, not passive in work. I knew it was going to be hard work, but I thought I was going to put video content out there. I was going to make money from the ad revenue, and that was pretty much it. I didn't really take into consideration the conversations that I would have with people and the giggles that I would have with some people. And it feels like the early days of Instagram. And if I had known that from the beginning, I would have done it for that alone. Honestly, it is that good. So even if you don't make a penny from YouTube, even if you just want to promote your business, it can work for that, because you find people who are genuinely interested in your work in a way that I haven't been able to do on, say, Instagram, which likes to really make you work for any kind of traction. And if you do make any content one day, it's forgotten about the next. Whereas here on YouTube, you can make a video, and even if it doesn't take off, it can take off at any time. One of the videos that I deleted recently was a video I made last September about potato blight. And it did okay. It got a couple of hundred views, which for me was good, especially my gardening stuff. People weren't that interested in it, so that was good. And then this year it just took off around the end of July. And I think when I deleted it, it was coming up to like 2,000 views, or had just over 2,000 views or something like that. It was a lot. And I just remember thinking, wow, that was a year after making it. You can't get that on Instagram. You can't get that on Facebook. You can't get that on any other platform that I have found other than YouTube. Here, your content, as long as it's strong enough, is evergreen, and it can get picked up at any time. So see that as an incentive to put a bit of time and effort into it, she says, sitting on the edge of her bed. I'm doing the best I can, okay? Right, this question really made me laugh. How do you fit in filming around work and family? Well, as you can see, sometimes by the skin of my teeth. Usually my daughter, when she's at school, I will do all of this stuff then, and I'm very privileged that I've got an office that I can have my usual filming set up, and so I can leave it all up and I can shut the door, and my family are not allowed in, and the dog is not allowed in, and I have my time to film. And then you have times like this when it's the summer holidays and we've got family down, and then you have to move everything up to the bedroom and grab 10 minutes. I think if I were to suggest anything, it would be do what you can with what you have and don't stress the little details. We're not PewDiePie, and I don't think I will ever be. No, I know I will never be. I don't think. Don't even try to go for perfection, because it's just not going to happen, especially in the early days. But you know what? I think that's what most people come to YouTube for. We like to see a little bit of grit. If we wanted perfection, we'd go and watch television. And I actually watch more YouTube than I do TV. So there's that. Okay, another question, and I was excited to read this one out. There's so much out there. How could anyone possibly stand out? Do you know what? I don't understand why, but it doesn't matter how many people are on YouTube and how many videos are out there. Somehow it works. The YouTube algorithm is so sophisticated. It's not looking at how many subscribers you have or haven't, and it's not looking at how many views you have or haven't. It's looking at your content. And just to be clear, YouTube can not only tell every single word you say throughout your video, it can also tell everything that is in your video. And if there was a tree behind me here, it would be able to tell that there's a tree there. And if there was a horse right there, I'd be worried, but it would be able to tell that there was a horse there. It's brilliant. And so it will scan your video and it will figure out what it's about, and it will push your video to the people that it thinks are looking for that. It's very much like Etsy in that sense, that it's always trying to match the right things for the right person. Unlike Etsy, it's good at it. So don't worry, it works. It's like YouTubey magic. But I did mention the evergreen element to the videos here. I don't know what I'm doing there. I did mention how videos here on YouTube can have an evergreen element, but honestly, it really is about quality over quantity here on YouTube. And although it doesn't seem to matter so much how good your production is, which for me, let's be honest, that's a good thing, it's more about how relevant the content is for viewers. So if nobody was interested in Etsy, nobody was interested in handmade business, and nobody was interested in YouTube for handmade business, this video and the rest of my channel wouldn't do very well. But it does okay because there are people out there looking for this stuff. That's what you've got to think about, not how many other people are on here doing other things. That's irrelevant. There's room for everyone. It's a really exciting platform and I'm a little bit biased, but I love it. Okay, how often do you need to post to keep viewers interested? Well, I said that when I first started, I just threw videos up as and when I felt like it. And of those videos, while they didn't do too well at the time, those videos, some of them, have been picked up and are still getting viewed now 3 years later. Then when I started doing it a bit more consistently, I think I showed up every 2 weeks because that was all I could do. And before I got monetized, I needed to make money elsewhere. So that got my focus first and YouTube last. So 2 weeks. I did notice I had consistent growth, but it was slow. And then when I upped it to once a week, the growth became a bit more consistent and upped again. It likes consistency. So it's up to you to pick what that looks like. And what I would suggest is, at the beginning anyway, maybe aim low so that you can see how you feel. And then if you want to increase it, then you can. But with regards to frequency, I would suggest trying stuff out. How often do you think you should post? That is completely up to you. However often you can and you want to would be my best answer. Okay, we had this question. Is it a good idea to mix business with personal? Now, I kind of touched on this before. Unless the two topics are compatible in some way, I personally would say no. And there's a reason for that. I mentioned earlier about how I started off with gardening and handmade business content because those are my two passions, I suppose you could say. But the two don't really mix together. So I felt like I had to kind of pick one. And I picked handmade business because that's where I'm probably the most nerdiest. And I have noticed that since doing that, I have started growing faster because when people come to visit my channel, they can see at a glance what it is that I do and what my videos are about. So they know that if they subscribe, the next video that they're going to see is going to be on the same topic area that they came for. Whereas before, they might have subscribed to see Etsy content and then the next week have been given a video about potato blight. So then what you're left with are people who either unsubscribe or forget that they've subscribed to you in the first place and just never watch your stuff. There's no point. There is no point having subscribers just for the hell of it. You want people to be able to see your work. You want to be talking to people who are genuinely interested in what you're talking about. So if they're not there for potato blight, don't give them potato blight. As with everything else that I've said in this video, I would suggest that you try it out yourself. So I would just say give it some thought. Don't make them too different because you might find that it slows your growth down too much. But also don't niche down so hard that you don't give yourself any wiggle room to grow. So right now I've spent the last few months weeding out my gardening content, pardon the pun. And I've started focusing in not just so much on Etsy, but I also, like this video, want to do other general handmade business content. And again, at some point, I want to start reintroducing the actual sewing work that I do as well, because that's kind of the whole thing that's holding all of this together. It's why I have an Etsy shop, which is why I make those Etsy videos, and which is why I'm making this video too. So I may as well show you what I do, because I do other stuff other than sit in front of my phone yakking away to myself. Before I go, if you would like to see just how bad my videos were, check this one out. No mic, no natural light. One thing I will say, there's some mild swearing in there that I didn't realise was still there. Headphones or sound down and you'll get the gist. If I can start there, so can you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.